Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining our July 2026 user group meeting. And let's just get started. So just a quick agenda. We'll have some quick introductions of the board members. We'll have a summit update. It's actually just around the corner, coming up here in October. Some upcoming events, and we'll just kind of hold like a 5-minute like community question and update session. That way, like if you have to drop off early, but you do have something that you want to make sure that we address, we will do that. And then we'll hop right into our educational sessions with myself on some automation tips and Business Central for finance. And then Kim Congleton is going to do 5 tips for using AI inventory. So it should be a pretty good day, I hope. Kind of nervous myself, but we'll get through it. And then we'll end with a roundtable discussion and Q&A. And you guys can just unmute yourselves also. This is a user group meeting, and you guys are the users. So we definitely want your voices to be heard. So don't be shy about taking yourself off of mute and speaking up. All right, so our 2026 board members, you can just take a look at the screen. These guys work behind the scenes on making sure that this user group provides all the content and helps with the summit planning and whatnot. So if you see these guys, tell them thank you. And then we will do our summit updates. I don't know. Is the summit crew on here?
I can help a little.
Yeah, go ahead. Let's do it. We have a nice slide with 1,000 words on it. So
The only one I'm looking at is Diamond Rio. There, I like me some country music, but
and I do like Diamond Rio. They had some really great songs back in the day. I'm actually excited because it's a well-known band and not just local groups. So.
No, there you go. There you go. So the registration is trending like it was last year. I think when we hit 5,600 attendees, you can see that literally a third of the registrations as of yesterday were Business Central. So, and 25% are users. So it's not just partners and ISVs attending, but a lot of users. So there are over 255 sponsors showing their wares, so that's great. The agenda is available and out there. You can start defining, where you want to go, at what time. Let's see. Closing party and concert and all information is there. We started talking about the fun stuff first. If you have people that are interested in going, guys, you want to get those registrations done before the end of July and save $500 on each registration.
Yeah.
So
Price
register.
Price goes up in just a few days. So that's and then they took them out, but also just go to the website, Dynamic Communities, summitna.com. The website's right there in the left-hand corner, and start just looking at everything. One of the big things on here also is the academy classes that are pre-conference. So some classes are 1 day, some are 2 days. They are an extra cost. However, a lot of these are extreme deep dives where like most of the sessions, you'll get a good overview and a good understanding. But the academy classes are always well worth the investment because you can really take a whole day and get great information on, one particular topic for that class. And so check out the website and register if you have not by end of July.
Good point on Academy. Thank you for bringing that up. I will tell you that not all Academy classes will be held. If there are less than, say, 6 people who registered, that class will get canceled. So if you're interested, sign up as soon as possible so you can be assured that the class will be held.
Yes, good point. Awesome. Now, Blaine, do you want to talk about, well, I guess I can touch on these upcoming learners events, and then you want to do I'll let you go into the webinars. So our upcoming road shows, here, we got one in Toronto, Minneapolis, Montreal, Columbus, Denver, and Fort Lauderdale to round out the year. So if you're in one of those areas, make sure that you check those out. Again, if you should see them on the learners page, register. And those are in-person events, usually, just one-day events, several classes, and a great way to network as well within your areas. And then our upcoming user group meetings in August 20th and then September 17th. You can see the content there. And you'll notice that we do not have any meetings in October. October will be focused solely on Community Summit. And then Blaine, sorry about that.
No worries. Happy to cover that as well anyway. But yeah, hey, it's I'll continue to trumpet what both you and Kim have been saying. I mean, the Academy class is highly worthwhile, and you're going down there to Summit anyway. Hopefully, I can't urge you enough to attend one of those and take a look at them. I'll be there for an AI related one, which I'm excited to go and see the content there. But there's all different topics. So webinars coming up. Yeah, we have one in August on the 12th with Christopher Royeris, and that's in fact Copilot AI and you. So that should be a great one to register for. Please go on to Learners and sign up. And in September on the 1st, Robert's giving real world planning worksheet scenarios, and just like the Angela pointed out, in October, we focus on the summit. So there's plenty of content there, obviously. So please, again, if you haven't signed up for summit, get signed up and do that ASAP. I do want to point out, and I try to make a note on this, that if you miss a webinar and you're interested in the topic, we go back and post those back into Learners, and you can search for those and find the video recordings after the fact. We had a webinar yesterday. It was excellent, by Tekla Clem, and that will be posted here within the next couple of days. So if you missed that one, you can go back and take a look. It was called Bean Counting 101. So look for that. And if you're looking for, if you'd like to step up and be a speaker in a future webinar, touch base with me. That's my LinkedIn QR code. And as I point out, I believe I'm in the whole world, there's not another Blaine Pennypacker on LinkedIn. So easy enough to find me, reach out, and we'll connect. So, all right. Thanks, Angela.
You're welcome. Thank you. All right, so questions before we get started, comments, questions. If you guys just want to take yourself off of mute, speak up, or I can't really see my chat, but put it in the chat. We'll just kind of give you a minute. But you got to speak up soon because we don't want to sit here in complete silence. Okay, great. Well, let's get to the content. With first, Fire Up the Grill, Sizzling Finance Automation in Business Central. I'm Angela Holland. you might have noticed on the registration, it said as a controller. I've just recently switched over from finance into Business Central consultant at L&L Consulting Services. I'm also learner's chair here on the Dynamic Community BC Board of Advisors. You can scan for my LinkedIn code. There's probably a lot of Angela Hollands on LinkedIn, but that's my LinkedIn and then my email. All right, so welcome to the cookout. So why finance automation, right? The reality that most finance teams face today are they're expected to process more transactions with fewer resources, right? So the volume is increasing, but staffing levels don't. In fact, staffing levels may be decreasing. So how is this going to get accomplished? Also, leadership expects faster reporting. They want stronger controls, more strategic insights. So the problem with this is a lot of finance teams are spending significant amount of time on repetitive entries. So entering the same journal entries over and over and over, waiting for individuals to approve invoices via email, spending hours and hours and hours on bank reconciliations, building same reports every month. Like there's just so many things that a lot of finance teams do manually or repetitively that could be automated. And we're going to hone in on a few practical automations today. We're not going to go into extensive things on each one of those. And most of these that I will touch on today, you can search Learners Community for previous presentations. I know financial reporting was just on one not too long ago. You just go to Dynamics Community. They're all out there. And more importantly, a lot of this stuff is going to be touched in detail coming up at Summit. So you can kind of look for that details out. What I'll do my best to kind of get you a little interested in and starting to think, you know what? I think we can do this as an organization. So as we go through here, and really before we get started, just kind of ask yourself now, what repetitive task consumes most of your finance team's times today? Write them down, document them, and then you can start saying, hey, how can we automate this and make this become faster? All right, so the menu for today, we're going to start with approval workflows, which approval workflows is one of the quickest ways that you can improve controls and automate your processes. Business Central offers a lot of approval workflows for all different kinds of things that we'll get into. And then we're going to move on to the main course with recurring transactions. We'll talk a little bit about some deferrals. We'll talk about bank reconciliations and adding in dimensions. And then we'll touch a little bit on financial reporting and then go into what the future of the finance automation is looking like in Business Central. All right, so the appetizer, approval workflows. So why do we want to start here? First, they're very quick to implement. There's high user visibility, strong internal controls. You get immediate return on investment, and there's no custom development required, right? So again, easy, quick, and again, you have your audit controls, right? So one of the biggest pain points that we see is, we'll say purchase invoices, approvals happening in email, right? So AP receives the invoice, they forward it to a manager, the manager forgets about it, the AP has to follow up on it 3 days later because they still don't have an email approval through it. The invoice finally gets approved after multiple emails, right? I mean, you just have so many touches and so much time that is being wasted and spent chasing down approvals. So the approval requests in Business Central are generated automatically, routed to the correct approvers. They're tracked and auditable. So let's just kind of get into a little bit more. So again, stop chasing approvals, right? So nobody wants to do it. Common approval candidates are your purchase invoices, purchase orders, payment journals, right? So how many of us say, hey, like I have a payment journal batch, but I'm not allowed to cut checks until so-and-so, puts their stamp on it, right? Well, let's automate this. Vendor changes, and even general journals. So again, the benefits, you're reducing delays, you're increasing accountability, there's a better audit trail, and you have consistent processing. So what does this look like, right? Just kind of like what we call like the recipe for this, is you have an event, right? Which, because of that event that you do inside of the system, it triggers the condition, which based on that condition routes to the approver. Approver gets a notification, the approver takes action, right? So very, very simple. And again, just a quick example, an invoice is created, right? That invoice is over $10,000. AP may have approval up to $5,000. It gets routed because they only have that up to $5,000 approval. The controller needs to approve it because they have that. And then now once the controller approves it, AP is able to post that invoice. All right, so let's look at this live. We can bring it over. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a purchase invoice and submit it for approval, right? I'm not going to, as I walk through this, pay attention. I'm not manually sending emails. I'm not tracking the status of this on a spreadsheet. Everything's happened inside the system. And you'll notice how everything updates automatically and you have that audit trail. The first thing before I'm going to do the invoices, I'm just going to show you the basic setup for this purchase invoice approval. And there's a lot of different, again, we talked about the workflows that you can set up. Approve and purchase invoices, you can purchase orders, you can set it up to approve vendor changes, payment journals. And all of those are really controlled through what is called like your workflows. So here in Business Central, I'm just going to go ahead and go to workflows. Now you'll know, like, this is a demo or a test database, so I don't have much in here. You would have your workflows that you have set up or want to set up, and you can also create new workflows from templates. So if you are looking to do this, without much guidance, you can literally just choose any of these templates out here: vendor approval workflow, purchase order approval workflow, and get those started. But what I've added here is your purchase invoice approval workflow. And just to kind of, not to get, again, too detailed into here, the first is you're going to, like, what I've done is I've added the restrictions. So when I go through this one, you'll see here, based on, this, I created an approval request for the record using approver type approver and the approval type limit change. So if I click on that line item, it allows me to now start to give the options. And then so basically I want to say, I want to delegate after never. So this is if the user is not available or they don't do the approver, like where does that delegate to? So I just put never on this one, but for their approver type, specified who's notified first about the approver. So I want approver. You can set this up so it goes to whoever the salesperson or purchaser are, or you can set up a workflow user group. For this demonstration, I just set it for approver. And then approver limit type. So this gives you options on how you want to route this approval workflow. So you can set it for approver chain. So AP needs to approve it, then the controller needs to approve it, then I can post it. or I want it to just a direct approver, or approver limit type like first qualified approver. So saying like the qualification is over, I don't have, or somebody, I'm sorry. First qualified approver is the invoice was over $5,000, so it goes directly to the controller to approve because that controller has the qualified approval limit for that $10,000. Or you can set it up for specific approver, meaning like this person has to approve this every single time. So for like the payment journals, if the controller needs to approve every payment journal before it can be processed, then specific approver would be good in this case because it's going to be a specific person. And again, without getting into too much detail, there's a lot of other items in here, and you can kind of play around with it, but it's really, this is just the most basic invoice approval workflow. It was super easy to set up. The next thing you want to make sure you have is your approval user setups. Done. So again, you'll have way more than this, probably, maybe not, but this is just basically saying I have only approver limit for, well, I have sales approval amount of 1,000, purchase approval of 1,000, request approval for 1,000. But in Barry here, which would be she would approve anything that I process that is over those limits. But she has an unlimited amount. But you can set up multi-tiered levels for these. And then there's also the notification setups in here. So if the notification type is approval, I want it for an email to go out instantly, right? So the system is generating that email instantly that, hey, Barry, you have this to approve, and she knows that she needs to take that action on the approver. I'm not having to go outside of the system and create an email to let her know. All right, so once you kind of get those couple things set up, I'm going to go ahead and go and just do a quick purchase invoice real quick so that you can kind of just see how quickly this goes into action. So I'm going to create a new one, and then just for the sake of time, I'm going to copy a previous purchase invoice. I think this was the one I played with. Yep. So it's over $10,000, which is what I wanted, but it's also over 1,000. That was only my limit, but. Oops, I did not hit copy header. All right, so let's just go put this on today's date. And let's just give it an invoice number. And again, not much setup. I'm just going to leave this information here. Again, it was just copied over from the previous posted document, which is also a good finance automation, as you can see. If I need to just copy something that was already in the system, very easy to do. But I'm just going to go ahead and send approval request. Right? So now you can see that this is pending approval. Even if I go back into my purchase invoice list, I see it's pending approval. When I go into the document, if I go to invoice and approvals, you'll see it created the approval from me because I had it up to the $1,000 limit, but then it's waiting on Barry. And then Michelle would have got an email saying, hey, you have this invoice to approve. She would be able to just quickly go into her Business Central. And then there's the approval widgets, and she would say, hey, she's got one approved. And you'll see right now, I have, as me as a user, I have one request that's sent to approver. So I can track all the approvals based on here, whether I'm a user sending out the approvals or I'm an approver that needs to approve. You can see here. And just to mention, again, this is a demo database. So, but you can see just right now, this if this email was set up, this email would have went out saying, hey, you're requested to approve the purchase invoice. It has the custom links and et cetera. So again, all that automated without me going outside of Business Central to get this approver done, and can work in so many different ways. Cool stuff, huh? All right. Now, what I'm calling the main course is recurring automations, right? So we have the approvals, the advertisers, that's set up pretty easily. But like, where is like really a lot of the time spent on your monthly processes, your monthly close processes, entering invoices, sending out sales invoices, whatnot, right? So all of these that I'm going to be speaking about here are all things that finance teams can automate and save hours every month, right? Think about how many journal entries that are nearly identical being entered every month. How many invoices are generated for the same customer? How many vendor invoices arrive for the same exact amount from the same vendor, right? So if the process repeats every month, Business Central can probably automate it. And again, this goal isn't to eliminate review of it, but the goal is to eliminate the repetitive data entry. So again, common things like rents, insurance, accruals, depreciation, service contracts, subscription billings. I mean, the list goes on and on. So the first one we're going to talk about is recurring or reversing journals. So typical uses, payroll accruals, intercompany allocations, prepaid expense recognitions, so many more, right? So recurring journal, meaning this is a journal that is typically the same or approximately the same that you enter every single month. Reversing journal is where you accrue something and then you reverse it for the following month, right? So instead of 2 journal entries, the system allows you to do just 1. So let's just get into that demo. Let me find my Business Central. I just thought about something. You guys were not able to see my slides a second ago, were you? I had them hidden.
We saw them.
Okay, good. I'm having trouble with 3 screens trying to keep the meeting going. Share my screen. Do live. I should have recorded them, but I digress. We will get through it. All right. So in the system, Business Central, if you just search recurring journal, recurring general journals, make sure you bookmark it so that it's on your home page. You'll come, so this screen is a little bit different than your just your regular journal entries. Your general journal entries, great, you can set up templates and whatnot, but I wanted to go into the recurring general journals because this is where you can really do like your best set of automations. In here, you want to make sure that you set your individual batches. So I recommend if you always have a payroll accrual, that reverses out every month. Set you a batch for that payroll accrual, right? If you have bank fees that you need to split out by department every month, right? Create a batch for that. So all of those different types of journal entries that are either reversing or recurring, make sure you have a separate batch for that, because then that way the system can sufficiently keep track of the last time that you did that journal, the next time you post it, etc. So for this one, you'll see I just created a prepaid expense batch. But again, you want to make sure that you have a different batch for each one of those different scenarios. And what I'm doing on this one is a reversing journal entry variable. But from here, we talked about recurring journals and then reversing journals, right? Both of those that the system allows it to, well, okay. So recurring journals are really these that are, say, fixed, variable, balance, or balance by dimension. So it doesn't have the word reversing in front of it. But what this allows you to do is it allows you to set this journal entry. And then once you post it, then it's automatically going to recognize the next month's posting date. So if it's called a fixed journal, what that means is your debit and credit amount, or the amount of your journals, will stay consistent every single month. So the posting date changes, but this information does not change. And then variable journal here is the other most common one. So your description and your calculations stay the same. Your posting date goes to the next month, but it clears out your debit and credits so that then you can just define every single month what that amount should be for each. And then when you come to the reversing ones, so it's the same exact concept, except it allows the system to know that that's reversing out. And one thing to notate on reversing is the system will automatically reverse the following day after the posting date. So in most cases, when we're doing these types of entries, the posting date is the last day of the month. That might not always be the case. So if that is not the case, then you want to make sure that you personalize your page and you add in this reverse date calculation. So this reverse date calculation basically says in the current month, so 6/30 plus 1 day, that'd be 7/1. So if I change this to say 6/16, no. You won't be able to see what it did, but we'll do it for 7/16. I didn't mean to post, I didn't mean to preview and post. But you can see it posted 6/16 automatically, and it's already now said, hey, your next entry is 7/16. So I can leave this out here to my next month in process, go to the next journal entry, etc. But I'm going to preview posting on this one. Why doesn't it like 7? I might need to go look at my journal.
You have no dollar amounts.
Oh, it cleared out the dollar amount because I had it as variable. Sorry about that. Good. I was like, why does it like my dates? So you can see here the posting date is 7/16, but it's reversing out 8/1. And let's say I did not have this reverse date calculation in here, then you'll see that it's going to try to reverse it out 7/16. 17, which you probably don't want. So make sure that if you're not using end of the month, that you add in that reverse date calculation. And you'll also see that I added in this %4, %6. So Business Central allows you to use these quick, I don't know the actual necessary term, but almost like a quick trigger, %1, %2, %3, %4, 5, 6 to do different things. So if I say %4, %6, this is always going to post this as the current month with the current year. So the description is going to say prepaid rent, July 2026. So it's based on that posting date. So then I don't have to remember to change that every month as well, right? Next month when I do it, it'll say August 2026. The next month, September 2026. Again, just learning those quick keystrokes to stop any repetitive entry into here. So again, fixed is going to keep that dollar amount. Variable is going to not keep the dollar amount. The difference between the ones that say reversing is reversing will do it the next day, or reverse date calculation. And these other ones is just that it'll post the journal entry without reversing. And then just something else. I know this is kind of a common question. This was changed maybe a year or so ago, maybe a couple of years now. You'll notice my preview posting might look a little bit different than yours. If you go into your general ledger setup, there's a posting preview type option. So standard is like the standard out of the box. If I changed mine to extended, I like this view better. The extended is the version that you see here on my screen. And then also you'll notice that I have debit and credit listed in my journals. That show amount, that is here. So you might actually only see amount only. And if you enter a negative, it's credit. If you enter a positive, it's a debit. You could just say, hey, I only want to see debit credit fields, or I only want to see the amount field, or I only want to see all amounts. So by clicking all amounts, it allows the system to have debit, credit, and the amount fields. So any questions on what I've touched on so far? Awesome. All right. The next thing is that you can automate is sales transactions, right? So you bill out memberships, managed services, support agreements, maintenance contracts, subscription services, right? But somebody is going into there every single month, and Angela Holland needs to be billed $50 for her fitness membership, whatever, right? So you can set this up to recur. So the system automatically creates these, and no one is manually going in there creating these sales invoices over and over again. And the other one is your purchase transactions, right? So kind of very similar as your sales invoices is your purchase invoices. Like how many times do you enter in the same rent invoice and you're manually typing it out? You get utilities, software licenses, leases. Again, like these things that are just coming in over and over and over again, you can automate so that they're either created for you or a lot quicker to enter. So let's look at these real quick. Let me find mine. Sorry, go back to here. The first one I'm going to look at is recurring sales invoices. So the first thing that you want to make sure that you set up is what's called recurring sales lines. So again, I'm just going to search recurring sales, and you'll get sales lines. So you can set up all different types of recurring sales lines. So for this case, I just went ahead and set one up called demo. But you would ideally have every single type of recurring sales transaction or line that your business deals with. This is just a super simple one. It's a service contract sale. And I have a GL account. Now you can set these up for items. You can set it up for resources, your fixed assets, like any one of these options on here. You can set up to recur. But for this instance, I just did GL account, and then I gave it a quantity of 1 each. Now, I will say also, out of the box, your unit of measure and your amount does not show on the screen. So you do have to personalize, and then add the field add those fields. But since I already have it on there, it's there. So you'll see, and then you can define exact amounts. And one other great thing is you can go ahead and add in your dimensions. So I have my 2 primary dimensions here, my department code and customer group. So I can automatically fill those in. So again, every time that this transaction goes, it's already completed for me. That, or if somebody is manually entering this, they don't have to remember, okay, what department does this go to? What customer group does this go to? So, so a lot easier to manage on that end, and somebody's not having to like look at, an org chart to figure out where to route this to. So you want to make sure that you set up your recurring sales lines. Now, I can set up multiple lines on this. So like, let's say this is, for this demo vendor, demo customer, there also needs to be, another charge. Like you can go ahead and add in however many charges that need to appear on that transaction that needs to be. And then once you have your recurring sales line set up, then you want to add that to your customer group. So actually, I'm just going to go hit customers here. And you'll see that I added it to a datum corporation. So if you just go to related and then sales, you'll see recurring sales lines. So this is how you add that to the customer card. And again, if you have multiple different types of these, you can add multiple, but for this one, it's only demo. And so you can see that here. Now there's a couple other different things that you can add into here. The most important though, is how you want the system to recognize this recurring transaction. So do I want it to be added in manually on my sales invoices? Do I want it to go automatically on sales invoices or automatic ask? So manual, it'll basically, when you're creating the sales invoice, you have to go and say, get recurring sales line for it to populate on there. Automatic, every single time you create a sales invoice for this customer, that line is automatically going to go on there, which is what I have in this demo. And then you have always ask. So always ask is basically every time you create the document for the customer or the sales invoice for that customer, you'll see a little pop-up saying, hey, there's recurring sales lines. Do you want to add it? And you'd say yes. So you can add it on quotes, on your orders, on your invoices, on your credit memos. Now I just put automatic here. This is the only one that I'm in demo today. So I have my recurring sales line set up. I added it to the customer card. So now every time I go and I create a sales invoice for this customer, it's going to automatically add that information. All right. So you can see here, here's the recurring sales line. All I have to do now is either send it for approval if needed, or I can send it to the customer. All right. Now you're saying, Angela, okay, well, I have 200 customers that gets the same exact invoice every single month. Like, I still have to go in here 200 times and do this? No, you don't, right? So the system allows you to go in here and create them all at one time. So you don't have to do this actually individually. So it's called Create Recurring Sales Lines. Or sorry, recurring sales invoices, right? So now you're going to be able to tell the system, I want to bill all my customers today, right? I could do specific customer numbers or code, right? But you also have these other filters that you could add. So I could say, okay, I only want to bill the ones where my insert recurring lines on invoices are automatic, right? So you can group it that way. You can also say, I only want to do those that any one of these, sorry, that have a payment method code of credit card, or, you know, so you can use any one of these filters to figure out which customer. You can also say, I'm going to take these off for the code. So if you had different, the code is your recurring sales line code. So remember I created demo. So you can, I want everybody that has recurring sales codes a demo, and I'm going to build those out. So again, you're just kind of grouping them all together, and then hit OK. And then what it does is you'll see now that automatically created a sales invoice, and then you can go in there and then take action for them. You know, if I wanted to send them all in bulk, post batch, you know, do whatever, right? So a great way to say, hey, give me all my recurring sales invoices, create the invoice automatically. I'm not doing much work, right? The work was all in the setup. So the same concept for purchase invoices. I'm going to go and I'm going to set up, I'm going to find my recurring purchase lines. And again, I created one for demo. You can create as many of these as you need for your business. But you can see here, I just, it's such a very similar setup to the sales invoices. So again, you can use, you know, you can do items, GL account, all those options. For this one, I'm just a rent expense here. So I just use my GL account for rent expense. Again, the same thing as your recurring sales lines. The unit of measure and amount doesn't automatically come out of the box. So you have to personalize the page and add those fields. But you can also add department codes. So your dimensions, your two primary dimensions can be shown on here. I don't want this attached to a customer group code, so I didn't put it on there, but I wanted it attached to a department code. So I added that on here. And then it's the same thing as your customers, but I'm going to add this. Oops, where'd my mouse go? To the vendors. And I added it here to Fabricam. And it's kind of the same place, related purchases, but and then recurring purchase lines. And then you'll add that recurring purchase line that you set up into the related vendor. So here I just added demo. And again, it's the same exact concept as your sales. Do I want to insert them manually, automatic, or always ask? And so for this demo, I just added automatic on your purchase invoices. So now I'm going to go and create a purchase invoice for Fabricam. And you'll see the rent expenses, all that's already on here. It has my department code, you know, all the information that is necessary. Just need to grab an invoice number and then send it out for approval. Now, unlike sales invoices, where I can go and say, create all sales invoices for my recurring transactions, I don't think Business Central allows you to do that for purchase invoices. So purchase invoices, you have to do one by one, like within here. Any questions on the recurring transactions? Awesome. All right, just a couple more things to go over. The next one is your deferrals. So deferrals are great, right? So how many of us have a spreadsheet that is created that for all your different prepaid expenses that you cost out throughout the year, and you want to you're using a spreadsheet and you post the invoice, and then you're using that spreadsheet to do manual journal entries to allocate that cost per the appropriate month, right? I used to. It was a conglomerate spreadsheet. It was crazy, right? Well, Business Central gives you the ability to create what they call deferrals. So it allows you to match your revenue or expenses to a correct period, reduces month-end manual entries. So again, things that are good for this: annual software subscriptions, your insurance policies, maintenance agreements, support contracts, prepaid expenses, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? So what this does is it allows you to automate your recognition methods, the number of periods that it needs to be deferred through, a starting date of the deferral, and a posting frequency, right? So no matter what the scenario is, whether it's a yearly purchase invoice or a quarterly software subscription or a biannual support contract for or my sales, or a yearly membership fee for sales, right? I can create a deferral template for each one of these scenarios. And then when I do that transaction, it'll automatically cost us out to the appropriate month, or put the revenue for that in the appropriate month, right? So it generates the entries automatically. You don't have to remember to do it every single month. It's a one-stop shop. All right, so what does this look like? Let me grab this back. The first thing you want to make sure is you set up a deferral template. So for each one of your scenarios, you want to make sure that you have the appropriate deferral template set up. Not all scenarios are the exact same. So you'll probably end up having multiple deferral templates, and you can create, again, as many as you want. But for this instance, I created a deferral for a life insurance, our yearly life insurance cost. Again, deferrals can be used with revenue or expenses. So when you're setting up the deferral cards, you want to give it a code and then a description that allows you to remember like exactly what this code is for. But then the next thing is you want to make sure that you're hitting the deferral account. So this will be your balance sheet account. And then for this instance, I just chose my prepaid insurance account. Again, this is the balance sheet account, not the expense or revenue account that would go on your P&L. Those are defined when you actually enter the transaction. This is where that balance sheet needs to go. The next one is your deferral schedule. So your deferral percent, what percent of this transaction needs to be deferred? For this case, I put 100%. And the calculation method, do you want equal per pay period? Do you want to do it straight line, days per period, or user defined? So I just did equal per pay period on this one. And when do you want this to start? So do you want it to start exactly on the posting date? Do you want the beginning of the current period? Do you want the end of the current period? Do you want the beginning of the next period? Maybe it needs to be beginning the next calendar year. So I'm paying an insurance policy for 2027. So I'm deferring it way out until then. But for this one, I just put beginning the next period. So you can see that. And then number of periods. So how many months does this need to allocate out? So I put 12 months. And the period description. So this is actual the line that goes on the monthly transaction on the general journal entry. So life insurance, and that is the %4, %6. Remember, %4 gives the current posting month, and %6 gives you the current year. And you'll see what that will look like in a second. All right, so once you have your deferral template set up, you can just add it to transactions. So for this one, I'm just going to go ahead and just go to my purchase invoices. You'll see, actually, I already have an invoice set up for the sake of time. Here, first up, consultants. It's a normal purchase invoice, but you'll see that I added in the deferral code. Now, this deferral code is out of the box hidden. So again, you'll need to personalize and then add that field. But once you add the field to here, then you'll be able to select your different deferrals. So this one I did yearly life insurance. And if I want to see kind of what it's going to look like, if I hit I call it a hot dog, but the ... right to the right of that, you'll see that this is how the deferral is set up. And then you'll see each transaction that it's automatically going to create. So you'll see that even though I'm posting this invoice in July, that this deferral is not going to start out until August. So it's going to create an expense entry for August 1st, September 1st, and you can see that %4, %6. Every posting date is the same. That's my life insurance cost for September, my life insurance cost for October, November, December, etc. All the way till it gets to $100, and it will kind of true up that last month so that the remainder of the cents gets accounted for. So what does this look like when you post it? So I'm just going to preview posting real quick, and then we'll be able to see this. I'm just going to sort on posting date. So, all right, so you'll see here that it is going to debit automatically my balance sheet account for my prepaid expenses or my prepaid insurance. And it's going to credit my accounts payable. And then it does, because I chose to defer the entire amount starting the next period, you will see an in and out transaction against your expense account. But then starting in August, you'll see your credit to your my prepaid insurance account, my balance sheet account, and then I see the debit to my expense account. So from then on out, every single month, it's automatically creating that credit and debit entry to expense it out till it equals 0. So you don't have to keep up with this anymore. These are posted. This is the exact entry. And if you want to also, I kind of sometimes like this hierarchical view. I can't say it. Anyhow, I digress. If you turn this on, then you can actually see based on your GL account, and I open those, all the different transactions that are hitting that account. So I can see at the end of this period, my prepaid insurance is going to net 0. My accounts payable is going to stay as a credit of $100,000 until I actually pay it out, and then obviously that will reverse that. And that I'm going to end up expensing to my expense account the $100,000 as a total. So with these deferrals, I really love turning this hierarchical view on so I can make sure that everything properly accounts, and then it's out of my mind. It's done. All right. Next is bank reconciliations, and I only have like a couple minutes to kind of go through this. We're going to go through it like super fast. There are so much good content on how Business Central has stepped up the game on their bank reconciliations, especially with Copilot and auto matching. Phenomenal. We're just going to go through it super quickly, but I highly, highly, highly recommend that if you're spending hours and hours and hours on your bank reconciliations, you look up the content on this topic. I can promise you that you will get something that is going to help you automate this. And I'm like almost positive there's like a session or two on this as well at Summit. But basically, as you can see here, process, you import, it matches, you review, reconcile, right? It's like super easy, super easy. So just again, I know I'm kind of running a little short on time, so I'm just going to show you this super quickly. I think it was this one, right? So let's say I have this bank reconciliation. I've already imported in this from my bank account. These are the ledger entries that are inside of Business Central, right? So hopefully everything is up to speed. So I'm just going to hit my reconcile with Copilot super quickly. You can see, oh, within seconds, it's auto match 9 of 10 lines. And I can open this detail to see like exactly what is matched. So it matched all of those, but it did not find anything to match this account analysis feed to. So I like it. You can, again, this is kind of like a teaching moment for the system. But you can discard it if I don't like it and do it manually. But for this sake, I'm going to just say, I'm going to keep everything that it auto matched because it looked great. And then voila, auto matches everything for me. And now the only thing I have to deal with is the exception, right? So I'm not going through and doing a lot of time match manually, match manually, match manually. I'm only saying, okay, why wasn't this account analysis fee matched? Well, it's not in the system yet. So, I need to, create a journal for this, or I need to go and make sure it gets into the system so that I can then finish my bank reconciliation. Again, highly recommend doing the content on that one, or looking for extra content on bank reconciliations. There's a lot out there and it's well worth it. Just another thing to touch on is dimensions. If you're not using dimensions, you could, and maybe you should. Better coding of the information that you put in the system equals better reporting, right? So you saw earlier that I used customer groups and departments, right? You could dimension projects or locations or branches, or dimensions of your cost center, your business units, right? So if you want to report different information on those different things, then create your dimensions and utilize them in the system. You can have, I don't even know the limit of dimensions. There's a lot. You have your primary 2 dimensions, I believe. But after that, like, you could even just stack on top of like a ton of those. But again, if you're not using dimensions, do it. You can automate your coding for customers, vendors, GL accounts, items, jobs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And also, if you haven't set up your financial reporting, you should. You should always have some type of financial reporting. Business Central does have, and they've actually put a lot of time and investment in their out of the box or inside of Business Central financial reporting modules. So definitely look into those. I'll skip this one. And then So everything that we've previously discussed is available now and can provide immediate value. And even some of this on the screen is available now. But looking ahead, Microsoft is investing heavily in AI-powered agents. The payables agents they're investing in, the sales agents. So definitely something that you want to possibly start looking at and getting a handle on or doing. You want to make sure that you can invest in these if need be. So just some future things again. So sorry I kind of rushed through last time. I definitely wanted to give Kim enough time. Top 10 financial automation wins in Business Central. You can look at these. My recommendation is, start with a couple and then do a couple more and then do a couple more, right? If you're not doing any automations, I recommend approval workflows, recurring journals, deferrals, bank reconciliations, right? Just those 4 alone are going to significantly reduce any manual efforts that you're doing. But again, it's important. Don't bite off more than you can chew. Maybe not try to automate everything at once, but just do one process, measure results, and then build momentum, and then just keep going. Do 1 or 2, right? And get them done. Again, if you didn't get my information at the beginning, you can snapshot it now. But thank you guys. And I'm going to quickly turn it over to Kim so she has time. We'll have time at the end for any additional questions. All right, Kim, I'm going to stop sharing.
All right. Thanks,
and
Angela.
Take it over.
Yeah, that was great. I'm pretty sure I learned a couple things about deferrals in there that I didn't know, so I appreciate that.
Oh, good.
Let's make sure I can share this. It's always fun when you are trying to do a new one. Let's see. All right, let me know when you can see my screen. And then, yeah. Can you guys see my screen?
I see it.
All right. All right. So today we're talking about 5 tips for using AI for inventory, one of my favorite subjects. So just quick funny story here. Of course, I asked AI for some meaningful statistics around using AI, where companies are embracing AI and using it to manage their inventories at some level. And of course, it made up some statistics for me. So I had to kind of go back and kind of challenge it and have it come up with some statistics and then quote the sources, of course. So it's kind of funny how, how much AI is ingrained in us. And there's always that kind of give and take and kind of trust but validate, or trust but verify. So this is, and it's always fun how it says, yep, it's verified now. So just a couple of quick things. So when we look at inventory, and I kind of did a slight variation on inventory with manufacturing in mind. I've been working with a lot of manufacturing clients, and I think there's just a lot of struggle with inventory and manufacturing. And I think it's one of the perfect areas for AI, because there's just so much data, and it's data that you can dig into and you can get insights for and you can make recommendations for. So we're kind of gonna, this whole presentation will kind of be a little bit skewed towards inventory for manufacturing, but we'll go through this pretty quickly. Also, I just want to do a quick poll, who is using AI? Just drop something in the chat, if you're using it on a daily basis, occasionally, or just getting started. Just drop something in the chat so we can kind of see who's using it, how often. And then also maybe drop in there what kind of tools you're using. So I was just curious what our audience is like today. Nice. Okay. So kind of a mix of Copilot, Claude, Hourly, Lewis. That's awesome. Gemini, cool. So we're gonna kind of look at it from a couple of different perspectives. I've got some examples we'll talk about with co-work, with Copilot, co-work, some examples using spreadsheets, some Claude examples, and Copilot. So the agents inside of BC. So lots to cover. So I'm gonna speed through this. I apologize. I've had like 4 cups of coffee and a Red Bull. So if I talk too fast, somebody just kind of slow me down. But these are the kind of the statistics you can see here. You know, there's kind of some companies have experienced, if they were early adopters, like a 20 to 30% reduction in total inventory levels. And I think this is like, to me, this is like the perfect example of where you can use that. So making sure that you can look at the different levels that you need to have, see the trends, because there's a lot of things when we're looking at a spreadsheet, we just don't see it right away. This is the perfect thing that AI is really good at. So, you know, freeing up some working capital without really dipping into levels that are unsafe. 65% are seeing improvement in service levels and availability. So that's really a neat thing to see, that you can have fewer stockouts, maybe some better fill rates, that type of stuff. And then only 4% have scaled AI in supply chain. So I think what this says, or what this data is saying, is that there are a lot of companies, whether you use AI somewhere, and a lot of times the companies that I've seen and worked with, it's easy to start with finance. There's a lot of rules around finance. There's a lot of logic. But I think what people underestimate is that there is so much data in manufacturing and inventory that it's actually, maybe, I almost would argue it's easier, but you know, that could also be somebody from an operations perspective versus a finance perspective. All right, so let's just jump right in. You know, when inventory goes wrong in manufacturing, it can stop the line. I think, again, this is, you know, I can't stress enough how much of an opportunity this is. So there's a couple of things we'll talk about. These are just, I mean, I feel like these are kind of scratching the surface, but they were really easy ones to start with. So like late PO and production, you know, if POs are late, we don't have the inventory, we can't produce what we need to produce. If we have bad data, like if our item setups are wrong. I mean, I think one of the first things, a lot of times when people are saying that they have issues with supply, it's because they're not updating the lead times from vendors. So, you know, being able to monitor that, make suggestions, be able to fix it automatically, perhaps, you know, it takes a little bit to get there, but being able to see it in real time and quickly is what I think can add a lot of value and make sure that we have enough inventory so that we can do production. Quality holds. So also understanding why something is on quality hold. So there's a lot of, you know, depending on your manufacturing process, depending on your inventory, you could have certain items that really do have a challenge with quality. You know, maybe they get easily damaged or things like that. And being able to see those patterns in it, and being able to like maybe substitute a different item or address what's causing the quality issue, the root cause, will really bring a lot of value. And then sometimes that vendor variance is hidden. So if your vendor delivers but is always 20% late, you know, that 20% is going to lead to, you know, your stock out problem. So you're expediting costs, you're creating emergency POs, but maybe it just doesn't really, it's not really as visible to the team that that variance is there and that it is causing a huge issue. All right. So, you know, a couple things that are already there in BC, you know, you guys all kind of know about this stuff. So I'm going to skip this on to save some time and really get into some of the demos. So Copilot in action, there's a couple of things when we talk about Copilot. So just, you know, Copilot in BC, Copilot, if you have a Copilot license for M365. So there's lots of places where you can actually use Copilot. So this kind of shows you just a couple of things that without Copilot, you know, your people might be running reports, exporting them to Excel, manually comparing them, those types of things. With Copilot, you can actually ask questions of your database, your Excel sheets, all of those types of things. So there's also a really cool thing in BC. I love playing around with it. There's the new kind of agent framework. So kind of how we talked about like the sales agent and the payables agent and the expense agent. There's also the ability for you to create your own agents. It's in preview, so it is not, I think it's still in preview last time I looked. But it will allow you to create your own agents. You can't run them automatically, but it's a really great way to prototype an agent. And I think that's what a lot of people kind of like, I'm not sure where to start. This is really a low cost, easy way for you to kind of go in and see what can happen. And we'll kind of see this in the demo, but essentially you can do a prototype. And then once you kind of start getting an idea for the types of information you want to get back, the types of things you want to ask it, it makes it really a lot easier then to kind of hand it off to somebody to build that out using maybe a little bit more advanced functionality. So when we talk about that and we look at it, there's a couple ideas, that you could do with that, like a late PO watcher. So it's going to alert you when the vendor is near their lead time threshold, and the lead time. And so kind of give some warnings that, hey, this thing might be late. Capacity alert. I think this one is huge. There's a lot of setup involved in having your data right ahead of time before you can do this. But I think this one's a huge one that really, when I think about it, a lot of my customers would be, super helpful to them. So, like you can flag the work center if it's approaching like 95% utilization before new orders are scheduled. Now, obviously there's some ISVs that do that really well as well. So, just kind of weigh those out. Quality hold monitor. So this is, looking at your inventory, seeing what's on hold, seeing when something is scheduled to be produced, and maybe if that inventory that's on hold is going to be needed for that production order, we can figure out, and let people know that, hey, you got to do something with this. Demand spike detector. I like this one, where you can monitor sales orders for unusual volume and triggers, like kind of a replan notification. That one's a little bit more complicated. And obviously if you had like already had like some seasonal spikes, that might not be really one for you. But I think if somebody had a pretty, kind of level production schedule, and all of a sudden somebody like fat fingered something and created this demand, it would be something that might be helpful to catch that before you go ordering a bunch of inventory. So that one's kind of a little bit probably more specialized, but I also think it could be pretty helpful. So, and just kind of the difference, Copilot and the agent, like kind of the different things that you can do. Keep in mind, like Copilot, the Copilot that's on the chat window, it's going to answer a question on demand. It's going to give you some insights. And then agents, where the power of agents are, when I think about it, it's really where we can monitor, we can act, and then we can notify without being asked, and eventually, add some automation to those things as well. So, all right, let's get into a little demo. So here, what we're going to walk through is just the agent preview. So you can see there, we can create a new agent. There's a couple of things you have to turn on before we do that. So if you go to Copilot agent and capabilities, you can see in here, there's a place to turn on the custom agent. And then you can see down here, the payables agent, the sales order agent is already active. So just a couple of things to check if you don't see that plus up in the top corner. And then to create a new one, we would just click on that plus. We can also see that I have some other ones available there as well. So I've created a late PO watch agent. So here, there's a lot of different things you can do here when you set it up. I can manage user access. I give it a name, a display name. And then in the visibility and access, I can go through, give it permissions or a role as well. So just keep in mind, when you give it a role, then it's going to be able to get access to that in combination with its users. Now, obviously, you're not set it up as super. I was being super lazy with the database, Kronos database that I have set up. So do not do, this is one of those situations, do not do what I did. Then edit instructions. So you can see here, it's just a pretty quick and dirty instruction set. It doesn't have to be super complicated. You can make it much more complicated if you want, but a lot of times I'm going to start with something this simple just to see what I'm going to get back, and then I'll further refine the prompts and get more specific as I go through it more. And then the one thing that you can do here is test your agent. And first you have to update, and then I can test my agent. So if I go in here to my agent, and it's going to activate it there. I go into my agent. Now, here's what I was kind of talking about. You can't automate it. You have to kind of run it each time. And that's because it's part of the preview. So I can set up a task template that I can use to run the agent. So I can, in that task, I can filter down the types of information I'd like to pull and make my filters a little bit more specific. So here I'm going to create a template, or in this case, apply a template to my task. And then here you can see I did filter for a single vendor. And the reason I did that is, especially when you're testing and with tokens and all of those things, you want to keep your first kind of make sure it works first. You know, don't especially if you have a lot of data. Obviously with Kronos, I don't. But if I have a lot of data, I don't want to have it going out, spending a bunch of tokens, and then, figure out it doesn't work. So what I can do then is run the task. And then you can kind of see over in the window on the right, the task that it ran. You can also see all the steps, which I really like watching. And so you can see exactly what it's doing at the time. So you can see it apply the filter. You can see it navigate to the purchase orders. You can see it select the row, close the page, all of those types of things. So, behind the scenes, this is what it's doing to come back and bring us this information. So now we can see I've got my message. I need to go in and review. And so I can go in and it says there's no release purchase orders that have a requested receipt date within 5 days of today that remain unreceived. So that's great. So everything has been taken care of. And I think, this is a good example of one of like a prototype. It's got there's a lot of functionality there that you could add to it, but I really think it's just a great example. Okay. And let's go to the next slide here. So another, just kind of how you would extend that. You could create an agent based on that prototype. You could schedule that agent daily. You have conditions that you put on it, where it's going to find any POs expected receipt date within 3 days, and no receipt is posted, and a production order needs this item. You can have it notify you, and then you can kind of see over at the right, we kind of did some estimates of what it will save you. So just kind of one example of how you could automate that. All right. So then just kind of looking at some of the other things that we can do. This one, I built one that is kind of a data auditing agent. And I've always kind of wanted to do that just because I feel like there's if there's not a good workflow for how items get entered, you can be missing data. So you can see here, I'm going through the same steps, creating the agent. I have some instructions. I have certain fields that I want it to look for because those are instrumental in manufacturing and keeping the process going and inventory wise. So you can see here, I'm going to go ahead and run a task and you'll kind of see what it comes back with. So it's going to give us a list of the items that we don't have setups for. And again, I filtered down the list because I knew some items didn't have some of that set up. So it's going to go out. It's going to look at the items. It's going to search for those fields that I asked it to make sure they're not blank. And then it's going to come back and show me the results. So in the interest of time, I'm just going to speed this up a little bit so that we can get through the other ones as well. So you can see here, and this one takes a little bit longer to do because it is going through each of those. And again, on the back end, it's kind of doing the same thing. It's opening the item card. It's looking at those fields I told it to, and it's doing that for each of the different items. And then it comes back with what I need to review. And here you can see the results of what it did. So it went out, it found the items, it identified the things that I was missing on each item. So you can see the first one I was missing 2 things, on the other 2 I was missing 1. So that can be pretty helpful, pretty powerful, and especially if it was something you automated at a later date, where it was, this would be a perfect one you could create as an agent, like using Copilot Studio or something like that, and then build in a little bit more functionality to it to be able to, surface those and bring back more information for you. So just some examples of the things that you can use Copilot in BC to do. Some of these, I've had some success in using these inside of BC. Is still, the Copilot inside of BC can be a little finicky some days for me. It might just be me, but you guys will have that side and you can try those out as well. So this one is an example of Excel with Cowork. Not sure how many people are using Copilot Cowork. There's a couple of different flavors of that. There's Claude Cowork, there's Copilot Cowork, which is essentially kind of using Copilot or Cowork on the back end. So here, there's a couple of agents that are there as well. So we've got 2. We're going to use the analyst agent, and then we'll do a version of Cowork as well. So here we're going to upload a spreadsheet. So a lot of people will send you the spreadsheet, and then we'll say, hey, here's your spreadsheet. As an inventory analyst, I might want to do some things with that. So here I'm just asking it to say, summarize the Excel spreadsheet and flag any vendors that are concerned. So in the past, maybe what I did is create a pivot table, do a bunch of lookups, and maybe that's how I kind of got to the point of, hey, these vendors are a problem. Now I can just upload that spreadsheet, and I can have the system kind of go out and say, okay, you be the analyst and you come back and tell me what you find. So here you can see it flagged some critical risks, some moderate risks. I think it had some performing acceptably. That was kind of nice. And then it's going to ask you if you want to do more things. So there's key takeaways that you can do. It's going to suggest some next things to do. And so you can see here, suggest mitigation actions, generate the risk-related vendor table, that type of stuff. So I'm going to click on the suggest and see what it tells me, to do. So here it's going to give me some immediate actions, and it's going to say, you need to do this right away. This is going to help, reduce your risk. So like enforce vendor accountability. So here it's suggesting NAB plus Power Automate to trigger some workflows. It's saying adjust some lead times because lead times are very critical. Dual sourcing. So maybe I should look at getting a different vendor that's has a shorter lead time. And then I do like visibility. It does suggest like a dashboard. That's kind of nice. So it kind of goes through. It's got a lot of different suggestions. Sometimes it's a little overwhelming. But I do like that it gives you a fair amount of options, and a fair amount of options that when you look at it, it's very different and very wide on like what the level of effort for you is to actually do some of those things. So it really is pretty extensive. So it can be a little overwhelming, but again, you can always pick like the easiest one to start with. And then maybe you get more complicated once you kind of see, well, you know what, the one that was the simplest actually solves my problem. It gives me the information I need. If one of the suggestions like we saw was like, go build the Copilot agent, then that is, maybe a little more complex. So here, this is using Cowork and looking at it with the same spreadsheet. I went ahead and kind of did this one ahead of time just because it does take a while for it to actually run. because it's doing a lot of things behind the scenes. So it's going through a big thought process. It's going through a lot of steps. So what it came back with here, you can see it's got a nicely formatted table. It asked me a question, you know, and it was a very good kind of question suggestion. So I went ahead and said, yep, do it. So it's going to create my vendor risk summary for the VP of operations. And you see there, it's got like a nice executive level summarized vendor risk statement there. And then we can see, you know, the high risk vendors. We can see what the issues, like the lead time, the on-time delivery. And then it also generated my email and put it in my drafts so that I could send that off to the vendor that I have the issue with. So CoWork is really great in that it can do some of that for us. So here, just kind of, again, some examples on vendor and on-time delivery analysis, some of the things that you can do, ask some of the impacts, and then, you know, different prompts you can do with the information that you have. And then we're going to just do a quick demo of inventory analysis with Copilot in Excel. I just generated some a little bit of dummy data in Excel, so I'd have a lot of transactions to work with, and then use Copilot in Excel. So you can see I have a huge notebook with PO history, vendor summary, and then I'm going through, and we can do some prompts related to that. So here, I did have it suggest some prompts and based on what we wanted to do. And so I can go into Copilot in Excel. I can put those prompts in there. And then it's going to work through those. The nice thing about this as well is that it can add tabs. It can add sheets with summarized data. It can add columns. It can flag variances. A lot of those things that you used to have to do manually, or you have to do a pivot and do some lookups to some other tables. It really is pretty powerful inside of Excel, what you can do with it. So here, that prompt was kind of generic. It was like, hey, tell me what this is, what this Excel spreadsheet is. I will say it's kind of generic, but I have had where people will send me a spreadsheet with no details. You know, like, I don't even know what this is for, what I'm going to do with it. You know, it's not a bad, like, hey, what's in this? Explain to me what this looks like, how this data relates, those types of things. So it can be a good prompt to start with. And then now we're kind of drilling into it. So which vendors, you know, it's kind of which vendors have issues. So it's looking into the vendors. So let's say Fabricam and Northwind are kind of troublesome. Look at all the late deliveries versus how many POs they have. So we can have it highlight in red all the rows where on time is no. So we're having it kind of see what's on time and then highlighting those rows. And there you can see there's a lot that's not on time. So that's a big issue when we talk about inventory, if our inventory is not getting here when it should be. So you can see there's an on-time column. There's whether we've received it or not. So a lot of information there. And then we can do our next prompt, which is kind of, you know, is it urgent? So add a flag if it's critical, or a variance, warnings if it's 3 to 7 days. So this is kind of where then it kind of comes into play. There's a lot of things that you can do that you normally would have to do manually. So you can have it, you can put in this prompt, you can have it go out and do it. You can walk away, do something else, come back and kind of keep working with this. So I'm going to speed this up a little bit here. And so you can see it does go through, walks you through the steps. You can see it add the column. And you can see actually on this one, I think it ran into a problem and it kind of corrected itself midstream. And then we ended up where we needed to be. But it's kind of interesting to watch how it actually reasons through all of that. Here, there's a little bit that we're going to do with the vendor summary. In the interest of time, I'm going to go ahead and skip that. But you can see here too, we can add some charts, graphs, pretty easily with just a quick prompt. So I will say it is interesting because I did this a couple times and it created like 3 different versions of the chart. So you never know what it's going to get. Again, I could be more specific about what I actually prompt it to do. And especially if I found a format that I like and that's how I want to do that, I could be more specific in my prompt, or I could also, do it a different way and use maybe a skill in co-work to actually have it generate that stuff for me. All right. And let's go ahead. There's another one. I'm going to skip that one. There's another one in Excel. I think we're going to upload the slides so everybody will be able to kind of do that. Again, some examples of inventory analysis. These are the different types of things you can ask the Excel spreadsheet and see what you come up with for the results. And this is the last one. So in Claude, I've connected Claude to my BC, my Kronos BC. So you can see here, I just kind of showed that so you could see that it was connected and the types of things we could pull out. Here, I just asked it, let's go back to that prompt, just to analyze my inventory position and give me 5 insights. That's it. I did a super simple prompt to see what it would actually come back with. And so you can see there, it's going through it. And it comes back with quite a bit of information there. Nice graphic. And then the inventory insights here, this is kind of the interesting part. So, it's saying it kind of brings me back 5 insights and it's identifying different pieces. You could be specific and you could say, I want these types of insights, but I just let it decide. So what it came up with is like, here's my supply gap risk. So that first one, that Athens desk, it's like my most consumed item and it's under replenished. So it gives me the data and it flags it as a risk. Then the next one, it's saying that my whiteboard is my largest dollar backlog. So it's saying I've got open orders for this and what they total. So really, this is a huge thing because of that backlog and the dollar amount associated with it. Then 5 assembly items carry 0 unit costs in the item master. So again, I'm using demo data. So I must have added some, or else there are some in there that don't have a unit cost. So obviously I should go put that on there. Oops. And so, these are insights I might not be able to see when I'm actually just looking at an Excel spreadsheet that somebody's given me, or just from, querying or just being in BC and looking at them. So again, in here, it's got I have a replenishment issue. And then I also have some issue with warehouse items that have stale open POs. I've seen this a number of places where somebody will forget that a PO is sitting there. It's, maybe we've received half of it and we're never going to get the other half. So very helpful. Then it's going to just kind of summarize the data and, what it looked at. So here we can see the issues. Then it's going to ask, what do you want me to drill into for you? So I can say like, I want to see the item card. And again, I wasn't super specific. So it's asking me which one. And so here I said I wanted to see the swivel chairs. And it was funny because I was thinking item card like in BC, but what it brought me back was information about those items that it thought I cared about. And it's not wrong. This is really good information. Again, I could also be more specific and say include like replenishment values as well. So then it kind of has some graphs, it has some key observations, and then a few things to flag, like your data, which I really like this part, and I really appreciate this part, because really when we think about using AI and when we think about using it for anything, if it's inventory, manufacturing, finance, doesn't matter. Data, if you have bad data, AI is not going to fix bad data. It never will. it's just going to highlight those problems, and it's really going to shine a light on the fact that your data is bad. So, to me, I haven't done much with this data, so it just kind of highlights how maybe that Kronos database, there's probably some things we need to fix before we use it for a demo. So just something to keep in mind. And then, it just keeps kind of going on with some other insights there. So then what I asked it to do is, it asked me a question, want me to look at open sales orders behind the demand, see which customers and due dates are driving it. I said yes. And so again, it comes back with I'm a very visual person, so I appreciate that it comes back with charts and graphs and just kind of these highlighted type numbers. So again, I can kind of see what's going on, and I can take some actions on those. Okay, so I think I'm pretty close to time. So just kind of wrapping up, I also kind of had some suggestions for some other agents that might be helpful. Dead stock escalation agent. I think this one is probably, I've seen this a lot of places, especially when you are doing an upgrade or reimplementation. Dead stock can be a huge issue, and it can be a huge carrying cost. I actually had one client that had like $500,000 sitting in dead inventory, and it was essentially like 4 engines, and they just could not, like huge engines, and they could not find them anywhere, and they found them buried in a warehouse that everybody forgot that they actually owned, and the owner was using it to store all his personal stuff. But for some reason, these engines got stuck back in the back of the warehouse. So I can see where this could be super helpful. Classification drift agent, I think that one will be helpful as well. Transfer order overdue agent. This one could be, especially if you're doing a lot of transfers and maybe you're transferring inventory from overseas to US, and they are taking longer than average on the water, this might be helpful as well. And then just a couple other ones that are a little bit different variations on what we've talked about. So yeah, questions, comments. I know I talked really fast, and yeah.
You talked fast, but it was really good.
Thank you. It was a lot to fit in, so I was trying. I realized I forgot to put my email and all of that, so I'll throw my email in the chat. If anybody has any additional questions, I'm happy to answer them or talk.
Yeah, thank you, Kim. And also, I think you're on the learners page for this meeting. If you click on Kim's name, it should take you to her LinkedIn, and you can connect there as well.
Wow, no questions. This is an easy group today.
Yeah. All right, so I'll open the floor for everyone. Questions on these topics, other topics. Feel free to take yourself off of mute. But yeah, thank you so much for joining today, and hopefully you got some content. Great presentation, Kim. That was really interesting.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun putting this one together. So anytime I get to play with data all day, I'm very happy. So
Really highlights so much of what you can do now. We're all in our infancy on learning this.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
I had to do it. I have another webinar right after this, and that one is more finance focused. And I have Claude to BC, and I had it actually build an interactive cash flow. And it's really crazy when you think about the fact that I really put in 3 of the shortest prompts ever, and that's what I got. And then, because usually what I will do is do like short prompts, get it to where the output to where I want it, and then I'll have it write the prompt. And then it writes this prompt that's like, it's like 5 pages long. And I was like, wow, that's crazy. So yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Now, I did a financial statement that was just, current month, year to date, and dropped it to Excel from BC through financial reporting. And my prompt was create an executive style report. It did a summary. It did the detail. It put really pretty colors and formats. It gave me percentages for month to date and year to date. It created 3 charts on different things. And I was like, okay, sold. I couldn't believe it. Yeah. So try, guys. Can't hurt anything.
All right. Well, thank you guys. We'll go ahead and just stop this recording and then